Welcome to the No Limits Podcast, where limits do not exist, where you can create cash flow, equity, and real freedom with the power of real estate.
3, 4. Now, we will begin.
Welcome to the dojo. The dojo. How to quit your job in 90 days or less. That's the topic of today's show. This is Todd Toback, and welcome to the No Limits Real Estate Investing Podcast. If this is the first time you're listening to the show and you have not been to our website, head on over to nolimitsrealestateinvesting.com, and there you will find a copy of the No Limits Wholesaling Map. This is the massive action plan, and this is going to show you how to do your first deal all the way up to building a business up to 7 figures with a team that's going to run the business without you. So make sure you head on over there after you listen to the show, nolimitsrealestateinvesting.com, and download the Wholesaling Map. So let's talk about how to quit your job in 90 days or less. So the reason why I'm doing today's show is we actually surveyed our list, our email list, and 70% of you, that's right, 70% said they wanted to quit their job. So I said, we have to do a show. This is so exciting. And so if you've ever listened to this podcast, you may have heard my story, but if you haven't, I'm going to share it because this is exactly what I did. I remember back in 2001, I was working for Pfizer selling Viagra. That's right. I was selling erection pills for a living. And I had a fantastic mentor, but there was one day where I met with my boss and I asked him for a raise because one of my friends who I got hired for the company came in and they hired him actually at a higher salary than me. And so I went back to my boss, Derek, and he was a great mentor, taught me a ton, and taught me pretty much everything I know about sales. But he basically put his arm around me and he said, Todd, I'm going to protect you, right? You don't really understand how the corporate world works, and you can't just come in here and ask for a 30% raise. And I remember that I was completely humiliated. I got in my car and I was driving on the 101 freeway in California, if you know anything about the freeway system. And I was driving back to my condo in Carpinteria, California, where actually I did my first deal. But I saw a Barnes & Noble's bookstore in Oxnard, California on the way to my condo. And I was about 3 lanes of traffic away from the store. And I said, I've got to get to that bookstore. I don't know, something's drawing me there. So I pulled over 3 lanes of traffic, barely got off the exit. There was a guy, I remember this, it's so clearly, this was almost 20 years ago. Had a Jack in the Box soda in his hand and he gave me the finger as I cut him off to get off on the exit. I pulled into the parking lot and immediately I got pulled to the real estate section. I didn't know anything about real estate. I saw a book called Multiple Streams of Income by Robert Allen, picked it up, read the whole thing in 2 days. Long story short, and 45 days later, I did my first real estate deal. And shortly thereafter, I quit my job and the rest was history. And I could tell you that that was my pivotal moment. And so my first step for you in how to quit your job in 90 days or less is to find your pivotal moment, right? Even though I love Derek and he was my mentor and he taught me everything that I knew about sales, it was that interaction where he put his arm around me and said, Todd, you just don't understand how the corporate world works. And I made the decision right then and there that I was going to quit my job. And so my goal for this podcast is to help you find that moment. Maybe it's anger or frustration or excitement or extreme optimism or gratitude. I don't care what it is, but you need to find it, right? Right now, you are satisfied where you are right now. Okay, this is a fact. Now you may say, well, Todd, I'm not satisfied. Well, you are satisfied enough to be where you want to be. I've talked about this, right? If you are 200 pounds and you want to be 150, you're satisfied at 200, right? If you want to have $1 million in your bank account and you have negative 2,000, right? You are satisfied. There is not enough anger or frustration or optimism or gratitude for every single day that you are alive, right? To move you from where you are to where you want to be. So you need to find that moment Okay. I've seen that where everyone who was extremely successful had a decision point. So find that. Number two, you got to adjust your income thermostat. And this is highly related to that anger, frustration, excitement, extreme optimism, right? When Derek put his arm around me, he said, "Can I give you what you need to be happy?" And I was living in Santa Barbara at the time, which was very expensive, right? And I knew that I wanted to own a property. And I'm thinking, hey, I'm making close to $100,000 a year, by the way, which was a very, very good salary, but it was not enough for me to own a property in one of the most expensive counties in the United States. Beautiful place, by the way. I mean, just awesome. And so, I looked at it and I said, listen, I think I've got to be making like a $500,000 a year to be living here, right? At the time, that's what I was telling myself, right? I need to raise my standards. I need to raise my income. And so I needed to focus on a number. In my mind at the time, that was the number that I wanted to focus on, right? I needed to net $500,000 a year. I needed to laser in on that. And so I wrote that number down. I said, I want to make $500,000 a year at the time. And I got really, really uncomfortable. And so my salary at Pfizer at the time was, I think it was around $60 or $70,000, and I had a company car, and I had like another $20,000 bonus. And so every day I looked at this $500,000, said, how do I get there? How do I get there? How do I get there? And I made myself uncomfortable during that time where I'm trying to do my first deal. And so I was thinking, okay, I've got to do maybe 1 to 2 deals a month. That's going to be between $30,000 and $60,000. And if I do that, then I'm going to get there. And I looked at that number and I put it on the mirror in my bathroom. And every single day I was just hungry, right? Now, why do we do that? Right? Well, when you set this big number, you become uncomfortable, right? You look at it and you're like, I'm not there. I'm just, a little frustrated. But with that dissatisfaction and that anger, that creates the tension. And when you create this tension, this uncomfortable feeling, this dissatisfaction, that's when the passion and the movement take over, right? If you ever feel like, I should do this or I should do that. Well, let me tell you, if your kids are in a burning building, right? Most of you, if you have kids, right? Or let's just say, your sister or your mother, you're going to go into that burning building. You're going to kick down the door. You're going to run up a flight of stairs, right? Or grab your dog or cat and get them the heck out of there, right? But normally you wouldn't do that, right? There are certain things that just stir action. And so when this income thermostat, okay, the thermostat again of where it triggers, right? And remember, a thermostat, it means that once it falls below a certain point, right, then that heat or the air conditioning comes on. And so you need to reset your thermostat because wherever you are right now, you're comfortable with that, right? And if you say, Todd, no, I'm not comfortable. Yes, you are. Because if you truly weren't comfortable, you would be taking action, right? You'd be working like a bat out of hell. So we need to reset that. So how do you reset this in number 2? Well, I like to create affirmations. Okay, now affirmations are a statement of where you want to be. So for example, if you want to make $500,000 or you want to make $1 million a year, you need to write that down. And you need to write that down and then you need to say it as if you already achieved it. Now, this is directly from the book Think and Grow Rich from Napoleon Hill. And I've heard this from multiple mentors and it works. So when you say the actual affirmation, you want to say it like it's actually happened. And then you want to add emotion to this. And when you say this every single day, you're going to look at it and you're going to get a feeling that you're not there. And it's going to create that tension again for you to take the daily actions necessary to make it happen, right? This is not some like hocus pocus, name it and claim it, right? This is just going to create an uncomfortable feeling. It's a reminder of who you are and to start acting like who you are, right? Everybody wants to be in shape. Everyone wants to make a lot of money. Everyone wants to have the freedom. So why do some people have it and some people don't? Is that some people got really, really, really uncomfortable with that situation, and it was enough to stir that movement. Okay, next step. You need to get the necessary stakeholders on board. Okay, what is a stakeholder? A stakeholder is somebody who's going to be directly impacted by your decision. So if you are married, your wife, okay, or your husband is a stakeholder, right? If you're an 18-year-old kid and you're living at home, maybe you want to get the support of your parents. You don't need the support of your parents, but most of the time I'm talking about your spouse, right? Or if you have a business partner, get your business partner on board, right? And if you're by yourself and there's no other stakeholders, great. You've got no one who you have to get on the train. But if you are married, this is definitely your spouse. Okay. Now, if you walk up to your spouse and say, I just want to quit my job out of nowhere, you're going to have a credibility issue, right? If you've tried, other business schemes and you have failed or not followed through, or you've been all over the place. And this week you're, joining some network marketing company. And then the next week you're like doing some Amazon drop shipping company, or you're building websites and you've quit these things, you're going to have to rebuild your reputation with your spouse. This is very, very important. You want to get people who are in your world on your side. Now, you're not trying to get approval from anybody, but if you've got a spouse, you must get them on board. I could do a whole podcast on getting your spouse to support you. But let's just say this. If you have had trouble getting your spouse on board in the past, there's probably a reason. So what I'm going to ask you to do is write down your thoughts, right? Why you want to quit, what will it do for you and your family and your spouse or other stakeholders, the plan you expect to execute, how long it's going to take you to get there, and then how much money you need to be able to quit that job. And now you can start to formulate a plan, right? And have that conversation, write it down, spend some time where both of you or all of you are focused on this conversation and present it. And I'm telling you, if you do it this right way in a thoughtful manner and you communicate it well and you show that you've thought it through, you're going to get people on board. And let me tell you, once you have your spouse on board, this train is a moving, right? I mean, you're going to have that momentum, which is exciting. You don't want to go out this alone if you are married. I can't emphasize that enough. All right. So next step is assess your financial situation. How much money do you have in your savings account, checking account, and what's your burn rate? Burn rate is how much do you spend every single month, okay? And you want to notice the word that I use, the word spending, not investing, because you're going to have to invest money into your business, money and time. And so if you put $1 in and you're expecting 4 or 5 to come out, that is not spending. I'm talking about stuff that you just spend your money on just to live or for entertainment or for fun or whatever else that is. You got to know how much you need to support yourself. So what I'm going to recommend here is during this 90 days, you want to cut all unnecessary expenses, not the investments. Okay, cut all unnecessary expenses, not to be confused with investments. I said that twice. And everything that's not bringing you joy or happiness or benefit. So for example, if you are currently overweight and you are trying to build a business and quit your job, why don't you stop going out to eat completely, right, during this 90 days and save $400 a month and invest that into your business, right? Why don't you get rid of cable TV, right, and invest that into a new website? And look, you may have a lot of money coming in, and if you are saving money and you are currently, you have a cushion, right? You may not need to go through this exercise, right? But if you are very tight already and you are going to invest in your business, then I would suggest making those expenses. I think that you should have nice things and I think that you should have enjoyment. But if you are in a period where it's this or that, I would definitely choose my future over things that I'm spending my money on that aren't bringing you joy. Very, very, very important. All right, number 5, for me, I would suggest having 6 months of my previous salary in the bank before quitting my job. Now, I might do it sooner if I was really aggressive. Ironically, if you just quit your job today and you didn't have money coming in, that income thermostat would go on, right? That energy and that nervousness and this, hey, if I don't do a deal today, I'm going to starve. You ironically would be able to quit your job sooner and might be more successful. But just to be a little more conservative, and if you could keep those affirmations in front of you and take action every single day and to keep your spouse on board, I'm going to suggest having 6 months of your previous salary or current salary in the bank before you quit. So have this number. So if you're currently making $45,000 a year, just say, okay, I need 22.5 in the bank before I quit my job, right? Or if you're making 100 grand, say I want, $50,000 in the bank before I quit my job. Here's the great part. In the short term, if you cut your living expenses, you can actually reduce that number and may be able to quit sooner. Now, we are going to be investing into the business. And so the great part about this is that you don't need to live like a miser, right? This business is going to enable you to do things and buy things on a level that you've never done before, right? So this is short-term sacrifice for a very, very, very big payoff. I cannot tell you the excitement of when you fully understand that if you put $100 in your business and getting $500 back, or in a more realistic scenario, if you put $2,000 into your business, you getting $10,000 back. It gets really exciting when you put $35,000 in your business and you get 120 back. I mean, this is stuff where all of a sudden you look back at your job and you're like, I cannot believe I ever worked for that, right? Well, I now am going to make in a month what I made in a year, or I made this week what I'm going to make in a year. This is absolutely possible. It is realistic. I've done it, and I've trained countless others to do it too. Okay, by the way, make sure you download the wholesaling map. This is really, really, really important if you have not been to nolimitsrealestateinvesting.com. Now, this is actually where we get to the nitty gritty, right? We've made that commitment. We're doing our affirmations. We understand how much money we need to have in the bank. We've cut unnecessary expenses, and now we're going to plow this money back into our business, right? We're going to invest it. We're going to plant seeds that now are going to grow into massive oak trees. Man, my blood is churning right now because we are going to get you to your first or next deal. And I can't wait for this conversation that you're going to have with your boss when you tell him that you're going to leave, by the way, in a very friendly and professional manner. We're not going to burn bridges here, right? But this is just so empowering, and I'm loving this podcast. All right, so now you can go back and listen to some other episodes, because now we're going to start marketing, right? We're not going to get obsessed with logos or our company name. We are now going to get the fastest path to revenue and keeping revenue in first position. So I would listen to this podcast and I would pick one marketing channel that I talk about. It could be direct mail or texting or online marketing or cold calling. I don't care what it is, but pick one. Right? I happen to love direct mail and cold calling. Those two are just the fastest way to go get a deal, right? You could also work with joint venture partners, but just pick one. Laser focus on it and commit, right? Do not get distracted by outside forces. Our goal is to generate leads every single day. This business is about three things. Number one, generating leads. Number two, converting those leads. And then number three is selling that property for maximum profit. And that may include keeping it and holding it as a rental, or selling it to a cash buyer, or maybe buying it and putting a little work into it and fixing and flipping it, right? But whatever that is, that last part is just dispositioning it the best way for you at that time in your business, right? And the more that you can do that, the more often you could do that, the more money you are going to make. All right. Now, here is where the magic happens. Number 7, focus on making at least 60 calls a day. Now, this is going to take you approximately 3 hours a day. Now, if you work 8 hours, right, guess what? You now are going to be working 11 hours a day. And if you get home at 5:30, right, for the next 90 days, you are going to be working until 8:30. Now, remember, this is a 90-day commitment. So if you have a regular job, guess what? This is going to be work. I get it. right? But now we are going to bust you out of the rat race. And so once you actually bust out of this, right, in 90 days, you are going to have those 8 hours back. And you're only going to have to really do this for 3 hours a day. Now, if you don't have 3, if you already work 11 or 12 hours a day, then commit to a number. Say, okay, I'm not going to make 60 calls a day, but I can make 30 or I can make 20, but commit to a number and do not back down. Do not back down for this number. Now, I guarantee you that if you make 30 to 40 calls every day for 90 days and you get commitments from people and you follow up and you've got a CRM, you are going to make money. You will be unstoppable. Success is inevitable. You are going to run into a seller that needs your help, and you are going to make your first or next 5 or maybe even a 6-figure paycheck. I'm telling you, it is impossible for you to call between 30 and 60 people a day and not do a deal or multiple deals after 90 days. So we're going to talk a little bit about what this looks like. But remember, you got to stick to consistency for this 90 days. By the way, you could also hire somebody. If you are making $100,000 a year and you're living on 50, right? You can hire someone to get on the phone and help make calls, and you can work with them and train them and listen to calls, right? And so you could start to buy your time here, right? This all depends where you're at financially, but no excuses, right? If you have more money than time, then you can hire somebody. This is not a big deal, and I would suggest doing that. I would do some of the calls yourself, but work with that person. Or if you have more time than money, right, then put in the work. And if you have no time or no money, right, the question is, how bad do you want it, right? You're going to have to work 12 hours a day to make that happen. Now, there are other ways, right? There are no excuses. You could find a joint venture partner to fund you, but I'm telling you right now, just make the habit, commit to the calls, and money is coming in your way. Now, number 8, by the way, if you have not purchased the No Limit Selling System, the No Limit Selling System is the system that I use to talk to sellers and train my acquisition specialists to do massive deals, to compress timelines, to get deals faster, and to spend my time with the right people. And if you have not purchased the No Limit Selling System, I highly recommend you purchase it. By the way, if you have no money and totally broke, you could actually listen to the podcast and get pieces of it from all over the place. But if you want to know more about the No Limit Selling System, go to nolimitsalessystem.com and you can get some training videos. Or if you want to buy it directly without listening to the training videos, go to nolimitsalessystem.com/backdoor and you could purchase it. The price is extremely reasonable. All right, but now it's time to convert. Okay, so every day, take 20 minutes and review all the leads that you've talked to that have some kind of problem or a timeline, right? Everyone who you're talking to, hardly anyone's going to be ready to do business that first time you're talking to them. But over time, right, over this next week or 30 days or 60 days or 90 days, they're going to start to matriculate, right? And 1, 2, 3 of those people are now going to come to a head with their problem, right? They are going to be at a point, an emotional point where they're ready to do business today. So every person you talk to, get a commitment for the next step in their decision-making process, right? Find out if they need to talk to a spouse, or they need to talk to the tenant, or they need to talk to their CPA, or they need to decide if they're going to talk to a realtor, or if they're going to decide whether they're going to meet with you in person and sign a contract. But get an understanding with every lead that you talk to on the very next step in the process. Very, very granular, and an appointment to speak to them next, right? We are going to keep these leads on a tight leash, and either they're going to be doing business with us or we're going to push them in another direction, right? But whatever it is, get these deals over the finish line, even if they're not going to be doing business with you. Review these leads every single day, right? I could smell your quit date, right? I could smell the day that you are going to have the conversation with your boss and telling him that you are going to be a full-time real estate investor. I'm really, really, really excited about this. Now, you may not share that, right? But you are telling him that this is going to be your last day. So stick with it, right? We're taking this. We've got the momentum. All right. Number 9. Once you have a seller and you smell that motivation, you've been nurturing these leads. After this 30 or 45 days of you marketing, you are now going to start to see these leads. They're going to start to spring up, right? You're planting the seeds, and over 30 days, you're not really seeing much. You're like, I'm putting in the work. I'm not seeing it. Maybe you feel this nervousness. You're still reading those affirmations. You are not stop marketing. You are still talking to sellers. You're getting those commitments. But now you're going to start to see little seedlings, right? Little springs of these plants start to come up, right? We're not going to see the oak trees, but we're going to start to see some signs of life here. Now you're going to start to meet with motivated sellers, and you need to now negotiate with a seller for the purchase of their property for a price that you can make a profit. Now you may say, Todd, what can I pay? Well, we're looking for a house which we could sell to a cash buyer, or a house that we could buy and fix and flip. So there has to be a significant spread between market value and what we are going to pay. And so you could sit here and overanalyze what you're going to pay for a house, but I'm going to give you just a little cheat sheet. All right, go to a website called redfin.com, and whatever subject property that you're looking at, right, go to the top of the address bar and put in the subject property. Now, if you scroll down, you will see a little map. And this is today, right? This may change. I know Redfin changes, but you'll see a little map and you will see the property that you're looking at, right? You'll see a little house, and then you'll see a bunch of other houses around that, and you will see pictures below of all the other comps, the comparable sales of the properties that have sold. So what you want to do is look for the 3 lowest that have sold in the last 6 months in similar size. And you want to look for the lowest of the low, and you want to be about 20% below that. Now, I could make this more complicated, but really that's the fastest way to do that, right? You want to see what's sold, the lowest of the low, and you want to be about 20% lower than that. And then just negotiate the lowest you can. Now, look, it may be a little lower, maybe a little higher, but go in there and lock up a contract. Do the best you can. I'm telling you, there are some nuances here, but we're not going to overcomplicate this, right? We're going to negotiate big spreads. Now, get that seller to sign on the dotted line. I would have 30 days to close on that. Make sure that you have an inspection clause in your contract so that if the house does not pass your inspection, or if you paid too much, you can go back and renegotiate. That is your fail safe. Number 10, once you have this property under contract, you then bring it to a title or escrow company or your lawyer's office who does closings in your area, and you are going to make sure that this company does concurrent closings, or they do assignments of contract. Call them up and ask the owner of the title company that. If they don't know what that is, find a new title company. Next, don't take your foot off the gas, right? You've got this property in a contract. A big mistake that I see is that people get some momentum and all of a sudden they stop marketing, they stop making calls, and they get that property in a contract and they stop that momentum. Now, remember, our goal is to quit our job. So we have to create a surge of deals, not just one. So now if we've got that first win, we've got to keep this train moving. So at day 90, maybe you've closed 1, 2, 3 deals, but we've got 4, 5, or 6 coming right behind us, right? We cannot be stopped. Remember, keep going like a rabid animal. Keep those affirmations and do not stop marketing. Do not stop marketing. Do not stop marketing. All right, now, number 12, sell to a cash buyer, or you can work with a local agent to sell the deal for you on your terms. Focus on big deals. One big deal can put you over the top, right? One big deal can put that entire 6 months into your bank account, maybe even a year, right? Next, 13, get your check and celebrate. But again, do not take your foot off the gas. Number 14, keep doing a good job at your workplace. Don't burn your reputation, right? They are still paying you. Earn your pay. You will appreciate this when you start to hire a team and you have people work for you. So we're going to treat others how we want to be treated, right? We're going to work our tail off after work, and we're going to keep investing where we're working. So we're going to preserve your reputation as someone who is reliable and trustworthy and someone who's going to follow through until the end. You never know who's going to be a potential business partner. Some of your old employers, some of your old colleagues may be employees of yours, or they may be private lenders of yours in the future. Very, very, very important. Number 16 or 15, excuse me, is repeat the process. Work like a bat out of hell to get to that desired number in your bank account and keep your momentum. Okay, you're building leads, and I want you to picture yourself leaving your job. Do not tell your work yet. Okay, do not tell your work yet. Do not tell them that you're investing in real estate right now. Do not tell them that you're making money elsewhere. Do not tell them that you're thinking about leaving. Just do your job and then build your income as large as you can. Now, number 16, when you hit your number, okay, now is the time to take the plunge, right? You can feel that emotion. Your heart is beating fast, right? Mine's beating fast. I remember right now when I told my boss that I was leaving, and I had the money in the bank, I was still nervous. I was so reliant on the salary, and I was so used to, having the insurance and the company car and the golden handcuffs. And now I was going to quit. I didn't know what I was going to do with myself, right? And that emotion was pretty exciting. Well, now instead of quitting, this is a little nuance, something that I've added that I didn't do, but if I could go back, I would go do. Now, remember how I told you you're going to do a good job and you're going to follow through and you're going to work hard, right? You are going to have a good reputation. But now that you're ready to quit, what I would do instead of quitting is I want you to talk to your boss, sit him down, have a friendly conversation, and say, I would like to work out a separation agreement, right? Do not tell them why you're thinking about leaving. Don't tell them that you're a full-time real estate investor. Don't tell them that you're making a ton of money elsewhere, right? This is not a pissing contest, right? This is your goal. What you're trying to do is negotiate a separation agreement between you and your company in a very, very, very friendly manner. And again, what does this mean? Well, this basically means that they are going to pay you severance to leave, right? It could be 1 week, it could be 6 months, it could be a year. Now, this may not be for everybody. If you're working like a minimum wage job at Subway, you're probably not going to get this, right? Or if you're working for some small company with 5 employees, you're probably not going to get this. But if you're working at a bigger company, is they don't know why you're leaving. They don't want any kind of lawsuits later. And this is, by the way, you're not threatening to sue anybody. But if you tell them that you want to work out a separation agreement, most companies want to separate and basically have you sign some kind of waiver that you're never going to sue them. And again, do not make any threats or anything like that. Just ask for a separation agreement. And you may or may not get a big check the day you quit, not including all the paychecks that you're going to get from the deals that you are doing. Now, if they agree to it, great. Yes, leave on great terms. And if they don't agree to it, then yes, leave on great terms, give them 2 weeks, work your tail off at your job for the next 2 weeks and preserve your reputation. Either way, just do great work and become a person of character. So here is the moment. You have now quit your job. You have now created momentum in your business. You have money in the bank account and you have deals in the pipeline. Now is the time to turn on the machine. So you remember when we had that scarcity of where you were working after hours and you only had that window, maybe the 1, 2, 3 hours to work? Well, now the world is your oyster. 100% of your focus now could be spent building the 7 or 8 figure empire. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you have not been to our website, nolimitsrealestateinvesting.com, download the map. But do me a favor, if you have quit your job and this episode has gotten you excited, do me a favor and tag me on Instagram or Facebook. I would love to hear about it. But you inspired this, right? Thank you for filling out the survey if you did. And I just can't wait to hear about you quitting your job and making that move to your freedom.